My name is Rachel, and I've spent 12 years perfecting the art of patience. Not the virtuous kind, the kind that calculates, the kind that remembers. I can still feel the warmth of my sister's saliva on my cheek. That moment at Mom's 60th birthday party didn't fade. It crystallized. Sarah's voice still echoes in that ballroom. Shrill, sanctimonious, poisoned by envy. You're throwing away her future because you're too selfish to sacrifice for a genius. My hands trembled as I wiped my face, but not from shame. From rage, so pure it felt like clarity. My son Marcus was 11 then. Average, they said. Unremarkable. I watched his shoulders collapse when he overheard their conversation, and something inside me shifted into something darker and more purposeful. I'd said no to Mom's demands. No to raiding Marcus's college fund for my niece Emma's prep school. No to proving my love through financial self-destruction. But that no had cost me everything. My mother's call stopped, Sarah's resentment metastasized into family-wide narrative poisoning, and Emma became the golden child while Marcus became the cautionary tale of wasted potential. 12 years is a long time to watch someone's life unfold in real time. Sarah's marriage collapsed. Emma dropped out of Yale after sophomore year. And Marcus? He became someone they never imagined. The reunion invitation arrived last month. Marcus was 23 when he walked into that reunion ballroom, and I watched Sarah's face drain of color before she even recognized him. He moved differently now, shoulders back, the kind of confidence that comes from surviving something harder than privilege. His suit cost more than her car payment, tailored perfectly, understated in a way that screamed success to anyone who understood the language. He'd spent the last 5 years building something most people only dream about. Not Yale. Not the traditional path they'd mocked him for rejecting. He'd launched a tech startup at 19, bootstrapped it through near bankruptcy, and sold it for $47 million at 22. The financial press called him the next generation's quiet disruptor. He didn't need an Ivy League degree to validate his intelligence. He needed results. What destroyed me emotionally wasn't his success. It was watching him choose kindness anyway. He greeted everyone genuinely. He asked about their lives. He laughed at their jokes. But when Sarah approached him, her smile desperate, her eyes calculating, something shifted in his expression. Not coldness. Recognition. Marcus, she breathed, touching his arm. You look incredible. He studied her for exactly 3 seconds, longer than comfortable. Aunt Sarah. It's been a while. His voice was polite, impersonal. The temperature between them dropped 20 degrees. She laughed nervously. I always knew you had something special in you, even when everyone else. No, you didn't, he said softly, turning away. Her hand fell. That night, after the reunion, Marcus found me on the hotel balcony. I was crying, not for vindication, but for the exhaustion of 12 years of controlled silence. He sat beside me without speaking, and for a long moment, we just existed in the darkness together. Mom, I need to tell you something, he finally said, about why I'm really here. My stomach tightened. I'd warned him not to come, not to subject himself to their judgment, but he'd insisted. Now I understood. This wasn't about proving anything to them. I've been in contact with Emma, he continued. Not recently. Years ago, when she dropped out of Yale. I turned to face him, confused. She reached out to me on social media, completely broken. Said she couldn't handle the pressure, that she was having panic attacks, that nobody in the family understood. Aunt Sarah had already disowned her for wasting the family's investment. Emma was alone in New York with no support, no safety net. My chest constricted. I'd heard fragmented rumors about Emma's struggles, but Sarah had kept it private, ashamed. I helped her, Marcus said simply. Nothing dramatic. Therapy recommendations, connections to mentors in tech, a remote job opportunity, so she could afford her apartment. She's been rebuilding her life for 3 years now. She's actually happy, Mom. Genuinely happy. Doing something she loves instead of chasing their definition of success. Marcus. I'm not telling you this to be noble, he interrupted. I'm telling you because Aunt Sarah is about to lose everything. Her business is collapsing. The reunion was her last-ditch effort to network for investors. And tomorrow, I'm going to change her life in a way she'll never see coming. His eyes held something I'd never seen before, controlled, righteous purpose. The next morning, Marcus arranged a private meeting with Sarah at a coffee shop near the hotel. I didn't attend. He was explicit about that. This needs to be between us, he'd said. But he told me everything afterward, his voice steady and measured. Sarah arrived expecting rejection or indifference. What she got was neither. Marcus had researched her failing business thoroughly. A luxury event planning company hemorrhaging clients, buried under debt, one missed payment away from bankruptcy. He knew the numbers better than she did. He'd watched her decline for 3 years through business publications and industry reports. I'm going to offer you something, Marcus told her, and you're going to listen without interrupting. Sarah's desperation made her compliant. I'm investing $5 million into your business, he said, but not as a gift. As a silent partner with controlling interest. You'll run operations, but I control strategy and finances. You'll have a salary, generous, but not excessive. And there's a non-negotiable condition. Her eyes widened. Hope and humiliation warred across her face. You're going to apologize to my mother. Not because I'm forcing you, because you mean it. You're going to acknowledge that you were cruel, that you were wrong, and that you've regretted it every day since. And you're going to do it without expecting forgiveness. Sarah's hands shook. Why would you do this? After everything. Because, Marcus interrupted. Emma asked me to. She doesn't want to watch you destroy yourself. She's better than you were. And I'm better than I could have been if I'd listened to your poison. He slid a contract across the table. You have 24 hours to decide. The helicopter comes tomorrow at noon to take you to the signing office. If you're not there, the offer expires. Forever. He stood to leave. Oh, and Aunt Sarah? Emma's been promoted to senior developer at her company. She's making 6 figures doing work she loves. You were wrong about her too. The reunion hotel lobby was chaos the next morning. Word had somehow spread, whispers of Marcus's investment, rumors of a helicopter, speculation that ignited like wildfire through the family network. My mother called 3 times. Cousins texted. Everyone wanted details, wanted access, wanted a piece of whatever was happening. I stayed invisible, watching from a distance. Marcus stood in the marble-floored lobby at 11:45 a.m., composed and untouchable. The contract sat in a leather portfolio on the mahogany table in front of him. Outside, the helicopter's rotors were already turning, visible through the glass doors, a sleek black machine that represented everything Sarah didn't have. Power, resources, options. At 11:58 a.m., the elevator dinged. Sarah emerged in yesterday's clothes, her face ravaged by a sleepless night. She'd been crying, her makeup smudged, her eyes swollen. But she'd come. She'd chosen humility over pride, and watching her walk toward my son felt like watching a predator realize it had become the prey. I'm here, she whispered. I know, Marcus replied. I want to apologize, Sarah began, but Marcus held up a hand. Not here. Not in front of everyone. He gestured to the gathering crowd of family members pretending not to watch. In the helicopter. Just us. You're going to tell me everything, why you did it, what you were afraid of, what you've carried all these years. And then we sign the paperwork. Sarah nodded, tears streaming freely now. As they walked toward the glass doors, Sarah turned back. For just a moment, our eyes met across the lobby. I saw recognition there. Not of my victory, but of her reckoning. She'd spent 12 years believing I was small enough to crush. Now she understood that small things sometimes grow into forests. The helicopter lifted off at 12:03 p.m. No one saw what happened inside. The helicopter landed 40 minutes later at Marcus's office building downtown, a gleaming glass structure that housed his venture capital firm. Sarah emerged looking hollowed out, her expression unreadable. Marcus guided her through security, past floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, into a corner office that probably cost more annually than her entire net worth. Emma was waiting inside. I heard this part from Marcus later. each detail precise and devastating. Sarah froze when she saw her daughter, really saw her for the first time in 3 years. Emma looked healthy, confident, radiant in a way that had nothing to do with Ivy League credentials or parental approval. "Hi, Mom," Emma said softly. Sarah's knees buckled. Marcus guided her to a chair. "I asked Marcus to do this," Emma continued, her voice steady but compassionate. "I wanted you to know that I'm okay. That I'm more than okay. That everything you sacrificed for, everything you pushed me toward, wasn't actually what I needed." Sarah couldn't speak. "The investment Marcus is making isn't charity," Emma said. "It's leverage. He's restructuring your company so you can actually succeed without destroying yourself. But more importantly, he's giving you a second chance to be my mother instead of my manager." Sarah wept, broken, desperate, finally understanding the magnitude of what she'd lost and what was being returned to her. Marcus slid the contract across the desk. "You're going to sign this. You're going to rebuild your business with integrity. And you're going to spend time with your daughter, who forgave you before you even asked." Sarah's pen trembled as she signed. She'd come expecting judgment. She'd received grace instead. And somehow, that was infinitely worse. 3 months later, I received a letter. Handwritten, on expensive stationery, postmarked from Sarah's address. My hands shook as I opened it. "Rachel," it began. "I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect forgiveness. But I need you to know what I've understood in these 3 months that I couldn't see in 12 years. She wrote about the moment in the helicopter when Marcus asked her why she'd done it, why she demanded my son's college fund, why she believed Emma's worth was measured in Ivy League acceptance letters, why she'd spat in my face when I refused. The answer, she wrote, wasn't about Emma's genius or Marcus's averageness. It was about her own terror of ordinariness. She'd weaponized her daughter's potential to prove her own value. And when I refused to participate in that delusion, I'd become the enemy. "You were right to protect Marcus," she wrote. "You were right to say no. And I've spent 3 months watching him succeed not despite your sacrifice, but because of it. Because you taught him that his worth wasn't dependent on anyone's validation." The letter continued with details of her business's resurrection, Emma's promotion, their tentative weekly dinners where they were learning to be mother and daughter instead of performance and audience. But the final paragraph broke something open in me. Marcus told me something in that helicopter that I'll never forget. He said, "My mother never needed you to believe in me. She just needed to believe in me enough for both of us." That's when I realized what I'd actually been spitting at all those years. Not you, but the kind of strength I was too afraid to possess. She'd enclosed a check. A donation to Marcus's Foundation for Underprivileged Youth, $15,000 in my name. Not redemption. An acknowledgement. I cried reading it, but not the tears I'd expected. These were different. Cleaner. I didn't attend Sarah's business relaunch party 6 months later, but Marcus did. He sent me photos, Sarah cutting a ribbon, Emma beside her glowing with genuine pride, investors signing agreements, a future being rebuilt from the wreckage of ego and entitlement. It wasn't about me anymore. It had stopped being about me the moment I chose to protect my son, instead of appease my family. That's what they never understood about revenge. Real revenge isn't spectacle. It's not the moment of exposure or the public humiliation or watching someone fall. Real revenge is building something so undeniably excellent that their judgment becomes irrelevant. It's becoming so secure in your choices that their validation becomes unnecessary. It's raising a son who turns a success into grace instead of cruelty. Marcus never threw his wealth in Sarah's face. He never made her grovel or suffer beyond what her own conscience demanded. He simply offered her what I'd offered him 12 years earlier, belief. Faith. A second chance. The irony was exquisite. The woman who'd mocked my son's potential had been saved by exactly the kind of character she'd insisted he'd never develop. "I see my mother sometimes now." She's softer, quieter, finally understanding that love isn't a hierarchy of achievement. Emma calls me on my birthday. Sarah and I have coffee occasionally, conversation that's still careful but no longer weaponized. The spit on my face became a catalyst. The rejection became a compass. The no, I spoke in that ballroom 12 years ago echoed forward through every choice I made, every boundary I held, every moment I refused to sacrifice my son's future for someone else's ambition. They thought they were breaking me. They were actually building me. And in the end, that made all the difference.